the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to order the April 3rd, 2025 Village Board meeting. 3, roll call shows all trustees present, all staff is present, and our attorney Ashley is present. Number 4, agenda changes. Are there any? No. 5, consent agenda. A, March 20th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes. B, presentation and other accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, I would need a motion.
I have 2 corrections on the minutes. In page 2, paragraph 2, where I note 11 feet and it was actually 11 and a half feet. So the narrowest sidewalk was 11 and a half feet. And then the only other thing I noticed was when we do a roll call vote, if there's any nays, do we normally note like who the nay is, just so that's part of the record? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion with the corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda with the corrections of the March 2025 board meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. 6, pre-registered citizens to be heard. Are there any?
No.
Okay. 7, committee reports. There are none. 8, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. 9, new business. A, presentation from Todd Tim on the Hortonville School District.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
You good? Here, I'll give you the full packet.
Okay.
You're gonna see these in your mailboxes. Printing costs are a little high, so I didn't print one for everyone, so if you can share. If you're a resident, which you all are, you'll see that in your mailboxes the next day or 2 as well. This is just a district's testimony to the Wisconsin legislature yesterday in school funding. Appreciate the time each year. Thank you for just giving me the time to give you a quick update on the Hortonville area school district each year. So Nathan and Jeannie, thank you very much for getting me on the agenda each year. Greatly appreciate it. Each year I like to give you just a little synopsis of our continuous improvement plan. It's on that postcard. If you want more information on that continuous improvement plan, Allie has the full packet. So by all means, as a board, if you want to look at some more descriptors of how we measure our success or where we need improvement, that postcard is just kind of our front shield of it, and in more detail is the packet that Allie's looking at right now. We have core areas in our strategic plan. Obviously, one of the major core areas is our learning and academics. As a reminder, the school district has 4,400 students. We have about 700 employees, but remembering when I say we have 700 employees, we're pretty unique in that we have our own drivers and we have our own food service. So there's many school districts throughout the state of Wisconsin that will outsource transportation and will outsource food service. So if you're comparing enrollments and comparing employee size, you might see us a little bit larger because we employ our own drivers and we employ our own food service staff. And we've found that's helped us with reducing turnover and taking a bit more pride in the job. that is done in transportation and food service. So 4,400 students, 421 school districts in the state of Wisconsin. We hover, 39th, 40th as far as the largest in the state of Wisconsin, which is a unique setup because when you think of our communities, it's big enough to offer a lot of opportunities, but small enough still to know families and our students. We performed, as far as the DPI report card, if you Google the Wisconsin Department of Instruction and want to see the results of any school district, any public school district, private school districts don't have to report. Any public school district in the state of Wisconsin, you can see those results and they're completely open to the public. We performed 86% higher than other school districts in Wisconsin. So what that means is of the 421 school districts in Wisconsin, we're performing higher than 86% of those 421 districts in Wisconsin, which we're very proud of. Doesn't mean we don't have work to do. We do have work to do, but we're very proud of our academic results, and those are available to you on the DPI website if you want to dig a little bit deeper into our math results, or you want to dig a little bit deeper into our literacy results. You can do that on the Department of Public Instruction's website. We're also seeing record numbers of youth apprenticeships in our high school, so it's a bit different than when I went to high school. Now our juniors and seniors have a great deal more opportunity. So we're seeing an increase every year of our juniors and seniors that are out working in youth apprenticeships throughout the Fox Valley, taking classes at Fox Valley Tech, or taking classes at the university system. In fact, a lot of our youth apprenticeships are staying on the job right after that they go through that apprenticeship program in the K-12 setting. We partner with multiple community organizations. That includes mental health therapy organizations. We have an award-winning program in mental health therapy that started about 12 years ago, where we have mental health therapy organizations on site in our school district to remove barriers for parents that they don't have to take off work and don't have to transport their children if they need some intensive services. So we partner with 3 organizations right now in the school on that. We also partner with dental offices, doctors, for students that are in need and may not have insurance to cover those services. We also partner with hearing and vision doctors to provide those services for our students. We also have an increase in our backpack program, so we partner with our local churches. I don't know if I've mentioned this in prior years, but we partner with our local churches here in Hortonville and in Greenville to provide food to 42 families in our community, 42 students and their families that don't have food in the evening or on the weekends, and we provide them backpacks full of food for those occasions. So we measure ourselves based on our literacy and math results and our academic results, but also want you to know that we provide other services for our students and the families in the community. In fact, you'll see in that newsletter, which is going to hit your mailbox in the next day or two, we tried to focus on our youth service learning. That's a component, a graduation requirement component, because we want our students to be required to give back to their community before they graduate. So they have to provide so many youth service learning hours in our community in order to earn a diploma from Hortonville High School. We want them to understand where they came from and the people that supported them in their youth. You also see in there, if you remember back, you had 2 previous newsletters, one focused on literacy. So there's a page in that current one that focuses on math. So if you're a math person and you want to dig into our math curriculum, you have a page in that most recent newsletter that you'll be able to dig in on math. And if you lost your last newsletter and you want to stop by my office, I can give you that one if you want to go back and dig on literacy a little bit more. Our mill rate, which tends to be popular for boards, our mill rate history and what our mill rate was in this last cycle. So if we go back to 1994, our mill rate, which is the district portion of the property tax, in 1994 was $16.04. In 2024, it was $5.75. In 2023, it was $6.60. Between 21 and 22 in the district referendum, it went from $8 to $6.61. So the $5.75 is the lowest it's been since the early 1990s. And again, from 23, it went to from $6.60 to $5.75. So it's our lowest mill rate. Obviously, you know, as a village board, that's just the school district portion of your property tax bill. One thing you might not know, because it's not listed on your property tax bill, is 59 cents of the $5.75 goes to private school vouchers. So for some reason, the state hasn't posted that on the property tax bill. So you minus 59 cents from the 575, that's what comes to the public school.
Goes to the private school?
59 cents.
59 cents of the 575 goes to private school voucher families. So the things that we're keeping our eye on, or areas that we're looking for in the future to improve, we have a 32 school CISA region, it's called. There's 9 CISA regions in the state of Wisconsin. So we're coupled with those 32 schools. They tend to be schools in the Fox Valley, all the way down to Hartford, Slinger area. So we measure a lot. Well, you'll see in that continuous improvement plan, we measure comparatively a lot to those other districts when it comes to retention, academic results, because there's commonalities there. So we're generally in the top 3 in retention of our professional staff. It's one of our key performance indicators, but it's something we're always keeping our eye on because there's a supply and demand issue, not just in the trades and healthcare, but there's also a supply and demand issue for teachers and educators in the school system. So our retention rate is something that we keep a close eye on. We're keeping a close eye on what the dissolvement of the possible, not the dissolvement, the possible dissolvement of the U.S. Department of Education and what that means for us. Messaging up to this point and meeting with Representative Grothman, who is the ranking member on the Department of Education at the federal level, assembly person or a congressman from Wisconsin. We've been told that we won't lose funding with that potential dissolvement, but we're keeping our eye on it. So when you look at our budget, in general in Hortonville, we receive very little federal funds when you look at our overall budget, but we still receive about $1.6 million in federal funds. So even though it makes up a small percentage of our budget in the Hortonville Area School District, it's still $1.6 million. And that $1.6 million from the U.S. Department of Education goes to pay for some special education services, some meal reimbursement, and some professional development. So if that is interrupted or dissolved in some way, as far as the dollars and cents of that, we have to make some adjustments from a budgetary standpoint. So we're keeping our eye on it. The majority of our funds comes from the state. Approximately 2/3 of our funds come from the state of Wisconsin. And then the gap there of the 1.5, 1.6 from the federal government and the 2/3 that comes from the state comes from the local property taxpayer. So that's how our revenue is made up. We receive revenue on a per pupil basis. So 4,400 students. Over the last 12 years, we've seen a great increase in enrollment. I tell you this every year. This last year, we leveled out a bit. This last year, we dipped a little bit. So it was our first decrease since I've been here in the last 12 years. It wasn't surprising to us because of how rapid our increase in enrollment has been over the last 12 years. But we're keeping our eye on, even though there's a lot of housing being built on all sides of the district, we do wonder how families will be able to afford some of the housing in our communities with interest rates at about 6.5 to 7% and the price of that housing. So we're keeping our eye on enrollment and what housing looks like in the future. We're also keeping our eye on several state Supreme Court decisions that are in front of the courts right now, including Act 10, and what that looks like. Although that's in an appellate court right now, it's likely headed to the state Supreme Court. We're also keeping our eye on a transition on how we teach reading. So last summer, last year, there was a bill called Act 20, and it flipped a little bit how we teach reading in schools. We were already on that path, so it wasn't that big of a transition for us. So think back when you were taught reading. If you were like me, you were taught kind of vowel sounds, phonics. That shifted for a while throughout the state of Wisconsin and throughout the country, and now it's kind of reverted back to when we were in school. Phonics-based, and then comprehension of words, comprehension of sentences after the phonics-based instruction. So it's taken a lot of professional development over the summer for our teachers to be in over the summer to comply with Act 20, but we were already on that pathway because we were seeing some great results of some pilots of going back to phonics-based instruction and literacy. You have a great school district, and I think it's because of our communities. We have work to do to keep our people in retention. We have work to do to advocate with our state legislature to properly fund schools. You'll see my testimony that I gave yesterday in front of the Wisconsin legislature. We're what's called a low revenue school, meaning we receive the lowest allocation per pupil in the state of Wisconsin per student. We have some school districts in the state of Wisconsin that can raise $21,000 per pupil. We can raise $11,325 per pupil. So there's disparity there. Why that makes a difference is we also only receive 29% reimbursement for special education children. When we think of special education, we can have some children that cost, and they have every right to be in school. We have some children that can cost $100,000 to $150,000, and that might be a child with severe cardiac issues, like we have. That might be a child with severe physical disabilities, like we have. That might be children with trachs, and our employees changing their trachs, like we have. So that can be children that cost a large dollar amount that we only get 29% reimbursement for. So we're advocating to say, listen, we're a low revenue district, we're fiscally responsible, we're one of the highest achieving school districts in the state of Wisconsin. We have students with these concerns that have every right to be in school. Fund us properly. That's my update. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the district or education in Wisconsin.
Anyone have any questions?
I do. So you referenced the fact that we're a low revenue district. So how is that determined? I mean, is it determined because this is how fiscally responsible we are, or we're in a category?
It's determined based on a ruling in 1993. So in 1993, there was a law that was passed, and if you think back to the early 1990s, there started to be some concerns about the economy at the time. And there was some concerns about property taxes and property tax increases from year to year, and you coupled that with some initial concerns in the early 90s about the economy. So the Wisconsin legislature and the governor at the time froze everyone where they were at spending. And if you think back to our community, which you'll know from your historical knowledge, if you think back to our community at the time, and it still is, but if you think back then, it was ultra conservative and pretty rural. So the spending per pupil in 1993 in our community was very low. So you could only build on every increase based on that frozen amount on a 1993 decision. In 1993, when that decision was made, it was said, you know, we'll revisit this in the near future, and now we're in 2025. So it wasn't revisited, and that put us in a low revenue category. I will say, and I think the joint finance, and you'll see it in the script there. They did make a larger adjustment for low revenue districts in the last 2-year budget, which was a great help to us, but it didn't close the gap enough. You know, when you have a district that can, when you have districts that neighbor each other and one can raise $14,000 a pupil and one can raise $11,325, it doesn't work. When you have districts like Nicolay or Gibraltar or other districts throughout the state that can raise $21,000 per pupil and some that can raise $11,325, it's difficult. And then you couple that with you know, kids that you don't know you're going to get sometimes that may have severe cardiac, and you have to have a nurse, a one-on-one nurse. We have several kids that have one-on-one nurses, and you couple that with paraprofessionals and then their teacher, and you get 29% reimbursement. We're just asking our legislators to look at it, and you know, we're going to obviously advocate for our kids here in Hortonville.
So then the revisiting it someday down the line, is that a federal or is that a state?
State.
So that's your state representatives
Correct.
type of thing.
Correct.
Did that freeze affect every district in the state?
Yep, so everyone was frozen at their 1993 amount. So if you were high spending per pupil in 1993, every increase went on that frozen amount. If you were low spending in 1993, every increase went on that 1993 amount. So you were just frozen no matter where you were at in 1993, and every increase went up from there.
I'm just going to say that that's crazy.
That
I
is
graduated in
crazy.
91, and I think of how rural this entire school district was at that point. I can't imagine 93 was any different, but that's crazy. Graduating classes were small.
Is there anything you recommend us to do to assist in that? Like, do you want us to call representatives and say, hey, we're advocating for Hortonville? I mean,
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Grace. So, that testimony, that we gave yesterday at Joint Finance, sent that to all of the other low revenue districts in eastern Wisconsin, their superintendents, before we testified yesterday. Sent that to our 700 employees. I can't tell you to advocate, I can't tell our employees to advocate. Try and give them the factual information, try and give you the factual information. If you ask my opinion, I'll give it to you. Or, you know, when I talk to our employees, I'll say, you know, this, you gotta understand this is my opinion. But the Joint Finance Committee has 2 more sessions. They are also taking written comment. So if you just Google Joint Finance Committee, Wisconsin Legislature, budget process, written comment, you'll get an email address that'll pop up. And written comment can be sent to the Joint Finance Committee.
cool, thank you.
We've done a good job of cultivating our relationships with legislators. They visit our schools often. Us being in session during COVID helped the relationship. Many of them came and observed, and it strengthened our relationship, I would say, from there. So they're pretty attentive to our school district and folks in our community. So I know they do look at the written comment that's sent. And we visit with legislators in CC6 generally twice a month down in Oshkosh.
Any other questions? No?
I just want to add, I really appreciate this board. I know I said that when I came and spoke when Brian was promoted, but just appreciate the library, I appreciate the community, I appreciate Jeannie being available if we're going to talk about school. She knows she can call me. I feel like I know I can call Judge O. And Julie's kids, I mean, just all of you. So I want you to know that if there's ever any questions or you have a concern, you never have to hesitate about calling. Appreciate our police relationship, our safety relationship. So it takes a village to have a school district. And I appreciate the work that all of you put in to make this a great place to raise a family and work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and we appreciate you very much. Okay, we will move to B, discussion and possible action on 2025 through 2028 SRO contract.
So just before I get into the numbers, Todd and I met last week just to kind of discuss the transition. That was the conversation at the beginning of the year. Officer Sokolsky and Officer Halger took over those 2 SRO positions. The feedback has been very positive. I don't anticipate any changes moving forward with those positions. The one thing of note I think that you'll see in this contract is that we are out to June of 2028. Reason being, contract would fall, or our contract ends 12/31 of 2027, which would mean we would, unless we were able to get that contract done within a month or 2, we would likely be going to the district with another 2-year contract and having to sort of really guesstimate numbers without having a contract in place. So this would allow us a little bit of time to know what those numbers would be and project as closely as we possibly can for the district down the road. I would say that none of the wording within the contract has changed. The numbers just reflect the changes in the union contract and are updated. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, Nathan, to the numbers or with the process. No? Okay.
Does anyone have questions? If not, we would need a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept the 2025-2028 SRO contract.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. C, discussion and possible action on potentially selling the village-owned entrance to the Waiwash Trail to the county on Lakeview.
We brought this back about a month or two ago. I reached out to the county a little bit before moving forward with requesting them to drop the paperwork for us to just give it over to them. The discussion kind of came along whether or not they wanted to eventually move the entrance off of Lakeview to another location where you would need the train tracks, basically, in between. They liked the idea of doing that, but without knowing when that would actually occur, there's really no reason to delay us getting rid of this section. Even if, let's say, we had a development go in on Nature's Haven area, which is where the entrance would probably come off into. The other lot is kind of useless for the most part. It's not big enough. There's a empty lot right next door, but even combining both of those lots, there's not enough to split it into two lots that would work for R1. So no matter what, you basically, if we gave this to the county changed their entrance and then tried getting rid of that lot, they really could only give it to one of the neighbors. And because of that, there's probably very little financial benefit there. And right now, for us, it's more of a liability that we own it. There's nothing we can really do with that property because it's the entrance to the park, so I think the county would fight us on that anyway. So for maintenance-wise, if there's asphalt needing to get repaired in the future, then it's not on us, or, so. I don't know what your thoughts are, if you guys are still good with moving forward. I still would come back with a contract, and for an official sale at some point, but, yeah.
Nathan, help me out here with, I'm just thinking in the, so, I get it that this is, we're not looking at doing an alternate entrance, but just to understand the logistics of that layout. So what they're saying and what you're saying is that it potentially, the idea would maybe be to not have that entrance on Lakeview Avenue, but then move it to where, am I thinking where the pump station is?
Kind of in that area,
Okay,
somewhere in that area.
so is that, and I was trying to figure this out, and honestly, looking at a plat, I couldn't figure it out. Who owns from that that pump station to the current trail head?
Well, currently, it's owned by Parker. So, obviously the entrance is on the far right side there, but
I'm looking at like where the old tracks were.
yeah, that's the state.
Okay, that's what I was confused about.
It's not owned by anyone, so it basically is an unlisted parcel, so I'm guessing the state still owns it,
I couldn't figure it out.
or the county. one
And
of
I
them.
know that doesn't determine what we do tonight, but it kinda does, just, like, so if the county ever says, okay, we're gonna close this, would somebody ever be forced to move that entrance over? Like, I guess, explain to me, like,
So
let's
the
say
county
they
owns the
decide-
entrance, and they own the park.
they own the
Right,
park, but they
to
don't
the
own the
trail.
entrance.
Right, we own the entrance currently. If we sold this to the county, the only way the county would remove that entrance is if they had another one.
Okay,
And most likely, I don't know if they would necessarily remove it, or they probably just would let it go, or try to sell it to one of the neighboring property owners.
okay.
So the area that we're talking about, that we own is here, but, oops.
Yeah, just that, we just own that, yeah. And then it's the railroad that owns,
Right,
right? And then it goes to the county, and then it,
then the county,
okay.
right. So it's,
Is there anything advantageous for us as a village to keep that?
so that's why I delayed the initial, you guys approved it initially, I started looking at it a little more, I was thinking potentially if we could, if it went to a different entrance and we could combine it with that other parcel or split those parcels together to make enough where it was a 70-foot wide parcel, we'd get two of them, two 70-foot wide parcels. It just doesn't, the math doesn't work. It's 130, I think it's 100 and, I think it was 130 across, and it needs to be 140 for it to actually meet our ordinance.
And that state piece in there, that big long, where tracks at one point used to be, where the trail
Right.
literally, yeah. So that piece there,
Yep. That's, I believe the state owns it, because that's where the trail goes through.
yeah, I couldn't figure out who owned that.
Yeah, it's not listed, but the state owns it.
Okay. I'm just thinking long-term here too, and like, if we give up ownership of that entrance, would it ever hurt us? And I don't see it ever, I mean, we do
The
have
the
an
hurt
alternate.
would be is whether or not we would make money potentially from selling it. And that's, depending on how long you end up waiting until that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where can an alternative, trail entrance be?
Pretty much anywhere in this, whole area. The platted parcels here, is Nature's Haven.
This is undeveloped, right?
It's all undeveloped. Any development that would go in there would have to be replatted anyway because of the wetlands changed from when they did this plat originally in 2006. The wetlands rules were a little lax then compared to now. So in order for them to actually go forward with a development here, they're gonna have to replat it, redelineate some of the wetlands there. It's more towards the southern side where the wetlands kind of come in at, but
I think there's, I'm not sure everybody realizes that there's a lift station back there.
right, so the village owns a lift station,
I don't think everyone knows that,
right here, you can kind of see it.
off of Geezy and
It's
Wayne.
right up the end of the road.
Yeah.
But it's not a gravel hardly at all or improved,
No,
the road going back.
no, nothing's really improved back there. So basically what that means is if we wanted to, when a developer comes into us and says they want to develop there, if we tell them, hey, the county kind of wants to put in an entrance here for a trail. The few that I've talked to thought that was great for them, so they would be willing to kind of do that. So you could come in anywhere along that edge, ideally. So they just include it in their design, but that's if they ended up doing it.
So what kind of decision are you looking for tonight, or are you just still looking for?
I'm just making sure you guys are still good with, wanting to potentially give this piece back to, well, give it to the county, not back to,
Sell it?
well, for $1.
Oh.
It's, yeah,
The county would be more likely to maintain this as opposed to putting in a whole new entrance, I would assume.
so that's why I talked to them about, they actually they would rather have a new entrance. Because of the fact that when the railroad has issues, like it always has in the past, it's a pain to try to get them here to fix it. And so you have anyone coming in with bikes or whatever, going through this area, having to go over those tracks, and it took a few years for us to get them to come and do what they did, and it's not even that much better. So I think they would like to stay away from the railroad tracks as much as possible.
So are they thinking of doing it soon?
It would probably depend on a few things, whether or not we got a developer in there that wanted to kind of give the land, and then, I guess, funding for them, I don't know. The new parks director there sounded like he would be fine with potentially doing that at some point, if that was part of the process with the subdivision.
So what happens, say we move forward, we give this to the county for sell it to them for $1.
Right.
And 15 years down the road, they create a new entrance to the park.
Right.
Now what happens to that?
They would probably sell it to one of the neighbors, whether or not they could get anything for it that of some value, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no incentive for anybody to purchase it because you can't build anything on it, correct?
Correct.
So there's never an incentive. All it's going to do is
Basically,
be cost
you
and
got a
increase
large,
taxes.
you got a driveway to a garage.
Yeah, if you could build a garage.
If you bought both properties, like the neighboring property there that's empty,
Yeah.
combined them, and you got a driveway to your garage, I think, pretty nicely, but
Okay.
short of that, I don't see anything changing it unless we change our ordinance to basically fit whatever distance it is that would split those into two houses, but even then, it's tight
Does
because of
the,
the angle.
is that trail or is that entryway used at all? And I'm gonna sound ignorant on this because I really don't know, for the snowmobile stuff?
No, no, it's not. Years ago, the snowmobile trail used to traverse through some of that other property and then ride along the railroad tracks and then go behind Kunke's and I think there's one other property back in there and then get to the entrance of the lake, which would be really nice to go back to. But there were some incidents and the private property owners no longer allowed it. That was one of the first things I was looking at. Is there a way for us to gain a right-of-way access for the club to get back to the lake? Because it is it's a recreational activity, you know, that's exclusive to the lake, and it comes out over by Quick Trip on the other side, it's a nice recreational activity. It's a nice business. It's a nice business draw for the taverns, the gas station. BP gets gas from snowmobiles. They don't get that anymore. The downtown district would see people drive down and park their snowmobiles there and then walk right into the downtown, but you
And
can't
again,
do that anymore.
not to sound ignorant, but I know that part of, is it Bath Street, that's part of a trail, right?
It's
Technically,
somewhat of
yes.
an orphan.
It's a weird, I think, one of the streets,
It's
cause I
bad.
think it's Bath Street that's part of the trail. Is any part of Lakeview, I just don't wanna hinder a snowmobile club later on from having access to.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but
Not anymore.
the reason that the snowmobile trails don't go down the roads is because they tear the hell out of the road.
Stupid.
And the new snowmobiles have triple carbides, and they literally cut right through the concrete when they go down the road, which is why I would love it personally as a snowmobiler to be able to go, because the wheel wash trail, you can ride right down it, but you can't go anywhere from there on snowmobile. It would be great if you could come in, but I understand the issue with actually destroying the road. Unless you put special, unless we intended at a later date, and I don't know what the cost is, maybe Aaron knows, but there is a special type of pavement that they can put down where it doesn't tear it up. You see it up north wherever they have the crossings.
And their neighbors got a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't wanna go down a rabbit hole with that, but I just
No.
wanna make sure we're not hindering anybody from, you know,
No, I was thinking the same thing. It was one of my, but I don't think it's a reasonable future use.
Is it possible that the bike trail could go along the railroad tracks and come out, like by Black Otter Supper Club?
Like, what, so the state trail, there's programs where they allow it. I don't know too much details on it. I know that there's some stuff that you can do, because I think New London had it done in some areas by their railroad, but I think you have to work with the state and the railroad company as well.
If that railroad is ever decommissioned, it'd be a perfect spot.
Then it would be a continuation of the Wild Wash Trail all the way to New London at that point, which would be beneficial, I think, to the community. Pretty.
Be more ergonomic as far as where's the trailhead.
Yeah, I also considered thinking about, how we're thinking about connecting the multimodal trail to the wheel wash trail sometime in the future. But even if we are going to do that, right now we can still use this, and if the county comes in with or state comes in with a new entrance, it'll just come out in a different part.
Right.
So it really won't. It's not really a factor.
motion to go ahead?
No, not really,
Or-
just making sure everyone's still on board before I have them drop all the paperwork. But it sounds like you guys are still good with it, so I can move forward with that.
Okay, then we will move on to 10, report of village officials. A, clerk treasurer, Jane.
My report was in the packet. The spring election went well. Total voters were 1,247. That was the highest ever for a spring election. Jane Oak, Jim Moeller, and Carrie Lathrop were the highest vote getters for trustees. And then Jeannie as well, president. Lauren should be receiving her Wisconsin clerk certification any day now. And I think you get notified when that happens.
That's awesome.
Yes, she put in her time and her training, and that is good.
Any questions for Jane? Okay, we'll move to B, Director of Public Works, Aaron.
My report didn't make it in the packet, I was out, but we have been working with our consultant McMahon, me and my staff, popping manhole covers, checking sewer dimensions, elevations, things like that to help them with the water and sewer portion of the Main Street reconstruction. So that's all going well. Been working with MSA to get out an RFQ for the mill and overlay that we have scheduled for Mill Street or John Street this year. That should be coming out shortly. They have started, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but they've started work in Alonzo again on the park. So it's going to be weather permitting. Whenever they can have good weather, they're going to get in there and keep working on it. And right now, we're still looking good for our schedule of opening the splash pad and park on Saturday, May 31st. And they should start painting the water tower on Monday, and that should take about a month before it's completed.
Any questions for Aaron?
I have one. I'm gonna apologize, I don't remember who it was, but I had a resident come up to me and ask me about the construction on Main Street. And they made a comment, I made a comment that it was gonna be like New London, and they asked me about the manhole covers. I guess the manhole covers, and I hadn't gone and looked and noticed this, but their comment was that the manhole covers in New London are set down. And if there was a reason for that, and if the ones in Hortonville, when they finished the construction, I think the comment, it was a sarcastic comment about, where they just set down so they can fill up with water and leave puddles in the road, or Hortonville's going to be the same. So I said I would bring it up to you so you could look at the engineering and ask about, maybe even, I'll be in the London so I can take a look at them, but.
Yeah, I'll speak to them about it. I don't know a reason why you would get too far set down just for that reason.
Yeah.
You don't want them sticking up because they'll get hit by the plows.
Yeah.
But I'll ask
But
them
you
if
also don't want them down, so you hit them every single time like it's a pothole.
it should be fairly flush, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Is theirs asphalt?
I don't know.
There might have been
They had a temporary asphalt, remember that? And you wonder, that was all put in before the temporary stuff.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up.
Well,
with them.
this was like this week, they asked me about it, and I know New London's all done, so I wasn't aware of it being an issue though.
I'll talk to our consultant about it.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to C, Police Chief Brian.
Reports in the packet. Only thing I want to mention, and I mentioned earlier in the week in my memo, Officer Wolgert started on her own this week. Very high marks in training, doing a fantastic job. So she's out solo and she's enjoying things. So positive news.
Wonderful. Any
Right.
questions for Brian?
I just want to say thank you for the memo you sent out
You
and
bet.
picking up the slack.
Yeah.
It's greatly appreciated to, that you're taking the initiative to,
Yeah.
to fill in where we need with the other officer out.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in there too, the officers have picked up all the open shifts. We had very minimal open shifts really, and everybody's been willing to step in and help out. So it's flowing.
I have, on another note, I've had nothing but good comments about you from the people that I run into in town, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move to D, Library Director, Ally.
My report was in the packet. Our Friends organization is gearing up to start taking the donations for the rec scholarships. We've had one application for the rec scholarship, so we're really getting ready to gear up with that because rec is coming up.
Any questions for Ally? Okay, we'll move to E, Attorney, Ashley.
Nothing to report.
Okay. F, Administrator, Nathan.
Just giving an update, I guess there's 12 total building permits taken out for the Terrace Manor subdivision already. He's got over about, I think he said he's got half of them sold now, out of the total 32 that he's gonna put in, so. He's also reached out to me about Nature's Haven, so we've been in conversations about that. He's meeting with Parker recently on it, so we're hoping that something will go there too, but it's early on still. Other than that, I know we did just get the preliminary numbers, estimations for the 2026 construction for Main Street. So Aaron and I have been starting to go through those, but still waiting on the other years, 27, 28, so the other sections, but I think things are looking pretty good so far. Yeah.
Any questions for Nathan?
And we ended up with the grant money for the park.
Yeah, we got half the grant money in. The additional grant money, we haven't heard anything on yet. But 500,000 we were initially promised, we got half of that when I submitted everything. So I'm not concerned with that funds getting access to those for the final. Once the project's done, we have to wait for a complete project to get the other half. So probably sometime in June we'll get that.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to G, Building Permit Report, and it is in the packet. H, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? Okay, we'll move to 11, Communication and Miscellaneous Business. A, Black Otter Lake District News, Bob.
Nothing new. Our next meeting is the 15th of this month, Tuesday at 5 o'clock here. So, all are welcome.
Okay, we'll go to B, Hortonville Hortonia Fire District News.
There's none.
Nothing. C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News. There is none. D, Hortonville Civic Association. Jane?
Nothing new other than we just got our sponsorship packet in the mail late today for the circus, so I will be updating soon and getting info out.
Okay. Any questions for Jane?
Just one question, somebody asked where the circus is gonna be?
Miller Park.
At Miller, okay.
Okay, we'll go to E, Senior Activities. There is nothing in the packet. 12, Comments and Suggestions from Citizens Present. Anything?
I'm not a citizen, but
You are.
well,
You are.
that's all right. I know I'm not sitting over there. I just want to say it's my last meeting, and it's been an honor to be here for 2 years. And this community does a lot of really cool work, and I've learned a lot, and we're a powerful little entity here. We can get a lot done together, and we're on the cusp of an awesome reconstruction, so it's going to be cool to see that come together. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, 13, we would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:49.